At the outset, I would like to congratulate and thank Professor S.P. Singh to have organized this session, because this is something a very important and vital topic to be discussed, and especially in the context of death of Sushant, who committed suicide. I mean, people are still contemplating, is it suicide or not? But considering the depression that he was, suffering with, so it's more likely to be a, case of suicide. But let's see what the ultimate investigation comes out with. But assuming if it was a suicide, then I think emotional intelligence becomes all the more important, because usually this is one area that we do not pay much attention. Honestly, we have always focused on the physical appearance and physical health. So as long as the person is looking nice, looking good, looking healthy, we assume that this person is healthy. But what is inside is something to be really looked at. And it's time that we start looking after our emotional health. I keep posting this message to my friends and my groups to tell them that emotional health is something that is inside you. So I'm reminded of a story where a group of kids were standing and playing outside on the road, and there was a balloon wala going by the side. So a small child who was standing near the balloon wala, he asked this balloon wala that, will this yellow color go up? Because he was filling gas in it, and those balloons would actually fly up. So this kid asks the first, the one of the balloon walas, that, will this balloon go up? So the balloon wala replied, yes, this will go up. Then he asked, will this yellow color also go up? He said, yes, this yellow color will also go up. Okay, will this red balloon also go up? And then he says, yes, even the red one will also go up. So he said, it is not the color of the balloon, it is what is inside that decides whether you will go up or not. But incidentally, our focus is majorly on the appearance and on the physical, attributes and physical health, and therefore emotional and mental health sometimes get completely neglected. And therefore, we get to hear situations like this. Somebody was telling me every 20 minutes there is a suicide. That's the rate of suicide. Somebody was mentioning about. So it's really alarming that we really need to look, why is this happening? Things are bad, and honestly, they're going to be far more bad if you consider what has happened just now with all of us. We are still in the pandemic, and we have not just yet come out of it. So we really need to pay full attention to it and look after emotional health of self and others. So today's topic is all about understanding what is emotional health, and this is something going to be like a foundation, session for all of you, and you have to start working from here. Though this program is organized for students, but I think it is for each one of us. An agenda has to be that we have to build our emotional resilience to the extent that we can face any amount of adversity with courage and confidence, and we can come through it, in a successful manner. So please allow me to share my presentation with all of you, so that I can, show you some slides, and then let the discussion go on. So you'll have to permit me to share my screen. Please allow me to share my screen. Yeah, I'm able to do it here. So are you able to see my screen? Somebody will have to answer me. Dr. Preeti, yes, are you able to see my screen?
I think the sharing has begun, but we are not able to see as yet.
Okay, let me again try, because this needs to be.
No, the screen is seen, ma'am. We can see the screen.
Oh, okay. Okay, give me a minute. Yeah. Now, is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm changing this slide. Please confirm if this slide is changing.
Okay.
Has it changed?
Yes, the understanding emotional intelligence.
Oh, great, great. Because at times it has happened with me that the slide was not changing, but nobody realized and nobody informed me.
Ma'am, so again, it has come back to the previous one.
Okay, great. So now this is the first slide that I'm showing you. Okay.
Yeah.
So as I said that I would be, basically doing a kind of a foundation session for all of you so that we all understand what emotional intelligence is and how individually I can look after it and help others also. And especially as parents, as teachers, we need to understand that we have to help our students to develop right emotional resilience to the environment that we are facing. So I'm going to start the whole session with a small activity. To everybody, I would request if you could sit comfortably in your seat and if possible, close your eyes. If not able to close, but at least sit comfortably in your seat and try to recollect any incidents where you were really upset with somebody and you had literally an argument with that person. So just try to reflect or recollect any incidents when you were really upset with somebody and you had an argument with that person. So try to recollect the feelings that you experienced at that moment. Try to recollect what were the feelings at that moment. Allow those feelings to pass through your body from head to toe. Experience these feelings. Let those emotions go through your body, through your face, through your heart, through your body, till the toe of your body. Try to give it a name. If you can recollect the name, if you can label it, that will be really wonderful. Try to give it a name, the feeling that you experienced at that time. Maybe you were sad, you were unhappy, you were angry, you were frustrated, you were just, feeling very annoyed with the person. It could be anything. Just give it a label, or it could be multiple labels in case if there are multiple emotions that you experience at that moment of time. Now try to check its intensity. For example, on a scale of 1 to 10, just try to see what was the intensity at that moment on a scale of 10, 10 being the highest and 1 being the lowest. So it could be maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever it was. Just try to, give it some value that you think that represents the intensity of your emotion. Now, since the time is, it's been some time that you had that argument with that person. So, and I'm sure you are out of it. Some thinking also must have gone through it. Now, given a chance, how would you like to change those feelings? Would you like to change the feelings? Would you like to change the label of the feeling? So maybe it was something like I hate that person. So maybe now I say, oh, I dislike that person, or I don't like that person. So would you like to change the name of the label, name of the feeling, or the label of the feeling? Also, would you like to change the intensity of the feeling? For example, if it was maybe 8 or 9 at that moment, after some reflection, now you feel it wasn't that bad. Actually, I should not have been very annoyed with that person. Maybe it was not that serious a thing. So maybe it could have been maybe 4 or 5. I maybe overreacted to the situation. So that way, try to give a value that you think would be more appropriate now, according to your understanding of the situation. Since you're out of the situation, so you'll have a more realistic and objective view of the situation. Now, once you have done it, now try to focus on the other person who was in argument with you or with whom you were really, really upset. Now look at the situation from that person's point of view. What do you think that person must be feeling? What do you think that person must be thinking? From his point of view or her point of view, what do you think was something that you did was not appropriate or was not right, or maybe you overreacted? Just try to visit the same situation once again, but from the other person's point of view and the person's perspective. Look at the situation, your behavior, your actions, your words, your words, your words, and your actions towards that person. Try to recollect that. Again, given a chance, would you like to change those thoughts and feelings? Would you like to change the way it happened? Would you like to sort it out? Would you like to go and say, I didn't mean to hurt you? Would you like to say, oh, I used very harsh words for you, I shouldn't have used that? Would you like to go and say to that person that I could have dealt it differently? I don't know, in anger, I used wrong words or wrong behavior or wrong action. Or would you like to go and say sorry to that person? Friends, through this activity, I try to take you to the road of emotional intelligence. To be very simple and precise, emotional intelligence has majorly 4 components, where I asked you to experience those emotions, label those emotions, even check the intensity of the emotion. That was self-awareness. I made you go through the same experience once again and reflect on it. I'm sure you must have been able to identify some of the intense emotions that you experienced at that time. Maybe you never labeled them at that moment. Now you got a chance to label those emotions. I made you experience them so you could see those emotions passing through your body, how it was impacting you. Maybe your fist would, tighten, or maybe your face will become tight, or maybe your chest will be slightly suffocated or tensed. Maybe breathing pattern would change. So that is experiencing and acknowledging the emotions that we are going through. When I made you label it, you identified certain emotions that you experienced. And then when I asked you to check the intensity or maybe give it a numeral, you got to realize how intense the emotion was. So that was part of self-awareness. Then I took to the second stage of the activity where we try to see the same situation from a different perspective. Since you have already passed through that phase and you have done some thinking about it, some self-reflection has gone in. So I'm sure now maybe you would like to regulate your feeling. Maybe you felt you were overreacting or you overreacted to the situation, or that was not the way you should have handled it. So second activity made you help regulate your feeling. So I'm sure if I could get some feedback from you, some of you must have felt that, okay, the emotion that I experienced earlier was much intense, which was not required. It could have been little less. And maybe out of that, you may have even changed the intensity. So that is self-regulation. And third is I made you look at the situation from the other person's point of view. So how do others feel when we behave the way we behave with them? What is the impact of my behavior on others? How do they feel? So when I asked you to look at the situation from the other person's point of view, you became aware of what that person must have been feeling or thinking or going through. And then finally, when I made you go through this fourth part of the activity where you try to work on the relationship, especially if the relationship is very dear to you, somebody very close to you. It could be your parent, it could be your sibling, it could be your friends. So once you realize that, okay, I really, overdid everything, or maybe I overreacted to the situation, and now is a chance to maybe say sorry or to think how differently I could have communicated my feelings without doing much damage or causing hurt to the other person. So that is relationship management. So in nutshell, emotional intelligence is all about being aware of what you are going through, learning how to regulate, because all emotions are okay because that's part of our being. But then to what extent, to how long, how intense, that is something we really have to learn to fit in our life. So that is the second part. And then becoming aware of the fact that my behavior is not in isolation. It is affecting people. It is impacting others. Sometimes when we are rude to others, when we are very offensive, we use foul language, especially with people who are less than us in age or experience or position. Probably that is one place where we don't care much to regulate our behavior. So we need to see how we behave with people who are not equal to us. And once you become aware of this, then you realize how your relationship with them gets impacted. People who are in our support system or people who are facilitating our life, when we are rude to them or misbehave with them or use foul language with them, naturally our relationship with them is not smooth. They don't feel equal to us, they don't feel happy with us, so our relationship with them get impacted. So this is in nutshell about emotional intelligence that we are going to discuss right now. So it is nothing but your capacity to recognize your own feelings and those of others. That will help you to regulate your emotions and understand and manage the impact of your behavior on others and on your relationship, which is very, very dear to you. So there was a time we always thought that the success of a person is majorly dependent on the IQ. So we always thought a person who has a high IQ will definitely be very successful in life. Then also came the idea that, okay, there are different types of personalities, and a typical particular personality would really outperform others. But lately, when studies were done, and it was found out that even people with average IQ but high EQ are able to outperform the other three groups. This has been seen by a number of studies. A group of students passed out of Harvard were studied, and they found out students who had an average IQ but had higher EQ, they were really far more successful and happy in their life. Studies also claim that 85% of your success depends on your intelligence quotient, emotional quotient. How emotionally intelligent you are, that will decide how successful you are in your life. So emotional quotient or emotional intelligence basically improves your two competencies. One is your personal competence in terms of your self-awareness and your self-regulation. And then second is your social competence, which is in terms of your social awareness and then helping you deal with your relationship in a more impactful manner. In general, emotional intelligence helps us improve our emotional resilience. Ultimately, I think the purpose of all education, all understanding is to make us better. Till now, we have been talking about the physical resilience or the psychological resilience. But now I think it is time that we have to also understand the emotional resilience, the way we see people breaking down, the way we see people going into panic attacks, the way we see people feeling anxious. So I think it is time that we understand the importance of emotional resilience, which is required to deal with any kind of adversity or challenging situation. So if we work on improving our emotional intelligence, we can actually become aware of what we are feeling and why we are feeling. And once I get to know what I am feeling, I can check the quality of feeling. I can actually evaluate the quality of my feeling. And if I think that's not right, that's not appropriate, that is not helpful, then I have all the opportunity to regulate my emotion. For example, if I'm being too rude to people, if I'm being too aggressive to people, and then I sit and reflect on it and I realize, oh, my behavior was not right, that's not going to help me, that's not the way I should be dealing with them, then it gives me an opportunity to regulate my feeling. Also, it helps us control our impulses. I think that is one thing that we many a times get affected by. So once you become more aware of your emotions, you know what you are feeling, you also get a chance to resist any kind of impulse that you experience. So when you are in the process of regulating, of course initially it becomes little challenging to immediately start controlling your impulses, but once you become aware, now you are in the second stage of learning. Actually, learning has 4 stages. The first stage is unconscious incompetence. I didn't know that emotions can be regulated. I didn't know what kind of emotions I'm experiencing. So when I got to know, okay, I have certain emotions that are not really very good or appropriate or very helpful. So that is second stage of learning, and that is called conscious incompetence. That means I got to know that my impulses, my behavior is impulsive, or my way of reacting to situation is not very mature or appropriate or healthy or helpful. That is second stage, that is conscious incompetence. Once you will understand the benefits of using emotional intelligence in your day-to-day life, I'm sure you will try to apply this to build your emotional resilience and improve your emotional activities. So that will be your third stage of learning, that is conscious competence. And that's very difficult because initially to change your old behavior or a set behavior, it takes time. It takes a lot of efforts. Once you realize the benefit of applying this in your life, and you can see that I become a better person, I'm better accepted by people, I'm able to get along with people better. So definitely that will motivate you to keep trying to implement all these aspects of emotional intelligence. And then finally a stage will come in your life that is called unconscious competence, when you will actually be pro at using your emotions and regulate your emotions without even your conscious mind knowing it, because then you will know what is going to land up into what. So impulse control, I think that's one of the major issues with the youngsters. Most of the times when we react to a situation, later on we sit and reflect on it and feel that, okay, that was not appropriate. I shouldn't have done this, or I shouldn't have said this. But in the heat of moment, we don't get to realize. So emotional intelligence would help you to resist or delay that impulse. And also it will also help you accept your aggressive impulses, because accepting and acknowledging is probably the first step towards improving yourself. Then of course it will improve your assertiveness. I think assertiveness is one skill that is very essential for our everyday life. Ability to express yourself clearly and also stand your ground and defend your position, and all that without being aggressive. Usually we think assertion is equal to aggression, which is not true. Assertion is where you are able to say what you want to say without actually causing any hurt or insult to the other person. You protect your rights, at the same time you respect the rights of others. So as a result, you are able to put forth your point of view without insulting or hurting anybody. Rather, in that process you also earn the respect of the other person, because your language was appropriate, your tone of voice was okay, and your body language was completely fitting to the situation. Every communication has three parts. That is, one is your words, second is your tone of voice, and third is your body language. So when you are aware of impact of your behavior on others, and when you are asserting, you will be mindful of your words. So your words will be full of respect and care and compassion for others. You will not use insulting and offending words for others. Your tone of voice will not be aggressive, but it will be firm, which will be indicating that I mean business, but you will not be aggressive or offensive with them. And then your body language also will be very natural and relaxed, and not like aggressive and fighting for it. So I think this is one skill which is a very healthy skill which we all require to bring in our way of communication. And once you will become aware of your own way of handling things, and you will also be aware of how it impacts others, you will be able to use assertion more often in your life. Then you also become independent. Independent, first of all, in this sense, your emotional dependence on others would reduce. We have a tendency to depend on others for our emotional health. Somebody should nurture me. Somebody should love me. Somebody should give me attention. Somebody should actually pamper me. So all this is nothing but emotional intelligence, emotional dependence on others, which is not a very healthy, dependence, because in case if the other person refuses to provide that, support or care, you can be at a loss. I am not very sure, but what I read about Sushant, he had posted his picture with his mother. I believe he lost his mother a couple of years ago, and since then he was really missing his mother. So quite possible that he was emotionally very attached to his mother, like any child would be with his or her parent, and also he was emotionally dependent on her. So as a result, maybe he was really very disturbed and upset because of her loss, and he could not recover out of it. So emotional dependence, as long as it is not burdening somebody, and as long as it is not making you dependent on somebody, it's all right. But if you think it's making you dependent on others, because if you are waiting for approval of your friends or appreciating them, for example, even the likes that we receive on the Facebook or the comments that we receive on the social media, so that's nothing but your emotional dependence on others for approval, for validation. So you need to check how much of it is okay. So once you will become aware of your own emotions, your emotional dependency on others would actually get reduced. And also you will be able to control yourself. You will be self-controlled. Nobody will have to tell you that this was not the right way of behaving. You would be able to evaluate yourself and correct yourself in the next chance. You will realize, oh, I didn't behave well. Now let me not do it again. So you will automatically control your behavior and stay self-directed with people and in situation. Also, at the same time, you will develop self-regard. That's very important. I think loving and liking self and having a regard for self is very essential. So you will not only be appreciative of your positive aspect, but you will also accept your negative aspects. We are not perfect. We all have positive as well as negative. Many a times we do not appreciate our positive. We have a tendency to over focus on our negative aspect and undervalue ourselves. And also sometimes we are so self-assured of our positive selves and we refuse to accept our negative self. So a very balanced approach is required where we appreciate our positive aspect and also accept our negative aspect with the idea to work and improve on that. So self-awareness helps you understand this aspect of yourself. And then self-actualization, where you try to work on yourself by utilizing best of your potential. We all have so much of potential in ourselves. If we connect with self, we are able to observe ourselves, we are able to read ourselves, we get to see our potential, and self-awareness would actually help you grow on your, utilize all your potential and put you on the path of self-actualization. Also, it will make you more realistic. Many a times, our approach toward life is not realistic. Our expectations from the life are not realistic. We look at life not the way it is, but the way we wish it to be. So again, that leads to a lot of disappointment and unhappiness. So it gives you a lot of objectivity to the extent if you will go wrong in any behavior with anybody, you will be able to see your behavior as wrong. And you will also be able to understand where you went wrong in the whole communication or conversation or reaction. Then at the same time, it would help you become more flexible. I think this is one virtue, this which is essential for the VUCA world, the world that we are approaching towards, which is very volatile, very uncertain, very unpredictable, lot of challenges that we can expect in the time to come. So emotional intelligence would definitely improve your flexibility. One, because your expectations from yourself and from others will be realistic. And also at the same time, when you can see the impact of your behavior on others, you will try not to unnecessarily hurt or insult others. So you will be able to adjust your emotions, thoughts, and behavior to the changing situations. And many a times, changing situations are something that are not in anybody's control. So people who are rigid, people who are not ready to accept the change, they find it hard to adjust with the situation. For example, even in COVID time, I'm getting a lot of calls from students who are very apprehensive about their studies or exam or their future. That's because they have a set plan on their mind. They have a set target on their mind. And if they are not able to pursue it or if they're not able to get it, they're finding it very hard to accept it. Emotional intelligence makes us flexible and to cope with it. Again, I was reading about Sushant Rajput, and I got to know that probably certain movies that he was supposed to be, he was supposed to be playing a role into probably were, taken away or something had gone into that. So quite possible that disappointment led to a lot of, other emotional changes on his mental health. Then, of course, I think this is again one virtue that we all need to develop definitely in the time to come, because number of problems we are going to face on our personal and professional front. So emotional intelligence empowers you with the problem solving skills where you are able to improve your ability to identify and define problems. Many a times you are not able to even define problems. We mix problems with emotions, and we are not able to find a way out. So emotional intelligence helps you to identify emotions, segregate it from the problem, and help you identify and define your problems. And then at the same time, it will also increase your ability to, implement potentially effective solutions. Also identify the possible solutions that are available around you. Even your stress ability would go up. People normally say stress is external factors leading to stress. My definition of stress is external factors leading to stress divided by your coping ability. Denominator बड़ा कर दीजिए, numerator अपने आप छोटा हो जाएगा. So you cannot change the situation. You cannot change what is happening around you. You have to just understand that that is something not in your control. But if you can improve upon your coping ability, you can definitely manage stress more effectively. So people who are emotionally intelligent or are aware, they are able to withstand adverse situations or adverse events and stressful situations in a more impactful manner. Your general mood also, overall mood also would be better if you are aware of the emotional, milieu of yourself and around you. So it also enhances your general happiness quotient. To the extent, actually, emotional intelligence is indicator. Is if you're happy, then your happiness is the indicator of your emotional intelligence and emotional functioning. So you can check it yourself. If most of the times you are happy, relaxed, cheerful, joyful, relaxing, enjoying life, comfortable with things, that means you are aware of the emotional milieu of self and about others. So that's a wonderful way of knowing what is your emotional milieu. Then, of course, it also improves your ability to look at the brighter side of life. People who are emotionally intelligent, they are able to focus on what is good in every bad situation. So even in the COVID time or other situations that we are facing, if you are optimistic, if you are emotionally intelligent, you will be still able to see some good in every bad situation. And I'm sure you all must be already doing it. So working on your emotional intelligence helps you identify what is good in even the bad situation. Emotional intelligence also thoroughly, empowers you with the people skill. I think dealing with self and dealing with people is all about emotional intelligence. And if you are able to deal with yourself, keep yourself happy, talk to yourself, address yourself. If I talk about emotional intelligence, I think on daily basis, we need to sit and ask ourselves, what is bothering me? What is, what is something that is, stressing me? So we need to sit with ourselves on daily basis, talk to ourselves, check what is bothering me. And if there is something that I can do, I must address it, resolve the conflict, resolve the issue so that I am peaceful. And in case if there is something that I'm not able to do, then I think acceptance is something that really greatly helps. So emotionally intelligent people will be able to sort it out on daily basis. They will not keep anything pending, because if you are keeping it pending, that's going to affect your mental health. And in case if there is any adverse situation, this negative thought process can corrupt your mind and take you to a downhill side. So we have to understand that I need to nurture my emotional health by handling my issues on daily basis. Then having people around you who work as your support system. I think as parents, as teachers, we need to be connected with our students, with our children at home, and keep an eye on them and see how are they feeling, rather than keeping an eye only on what they're eating or not eating, are they studying or not studying. I think our pulse should be, how are they feeling? If they're feeling okay, if they're relaxed, if they're cheerful, if they're enjoying your company, that means their emotional health is okay. Then, and as a person also, we need to check on regular basis, how am I feeling? And in case if there is something that is bothering me, I need to address and work on it. So I was talking about the people skill. One skill that we really learn if we are emotionally intelligent is empathy. So empathy is you're able to put yourself in the other person's position and look at the situation from their perspective. So when you are able to use empathy in your life, actually you will not be unhappy and annoyed with anybody, because you will be able to see things from their point of view. You'll be able to see their problems, their issues, their challenges. So you will not be judgmental. You will not be annoyed with them. You will understand their feelings and then you will communicate with greater understanding. So I think empathy is one virtue which all of us must have, and that's a great skill to develop a wonderful relationship with people, because then there is no reason for conflict between two people. So once you are able to understand impact of your behavior on others, and you are able to regulate it, definitely you will be able to forge and maintain fruitful relationships that are beneficial. They are marked by give and take, and there is a sense of emotional closeness. Even for example, this is for the students I'm talking, even for example at home with your parents, with your siblings, if you are able to see that even that relationship has to have a give and take aspect. Usually it is parents who do most of the things at home. So it is children who need to come forward and take responsibility and share some responsibility in terms of maybe household chores, or maybe in terms of financial responsibility, or discussing or playing a role of a mature person at home. Even that's also a way of handling situation. So emotional intelligence not only works on helping you develop good relationship around you, but also makes you more responsible. It gives you the understanding of what is your role in the group. So it could be at home with your family, it could be your role in the classroom with your friends, it could be your role with your siblings, it could be your role with your teachers. So it could be anywhere, or even in neighborhood with people around who are living with you. So basically you will learn to be more cooperative, more contributing and constructive member of the social group wherever you are. So it helps you earn the right perspective towards society and also play your role very responsibly. Now, $1 million question is, can EQ be increased? Yes, EQ can be increased because our brain is hardwired to give emotions the upper hand. We all have emotional mind and rational mind. Usually, in the rush of life, we actually attend to the rational mind more. We take instructions from the rational mind more, and emotional mind only hijacks when it is disturbed. Otherwise, we do not pay much attention to the emotions or the nurturing of emotion. So that is something that can be done. And if you are able to create a balance and create a coordination between emotional brain and rational mind, you can definitely create better results. So how do you do it? Practicing introspection on regular basis. Sit with yourself, talk to yourself, introspect on your behavior. Especially some of you, if you have anger issues, aggressive behavior, if you have a tendency to be easily frustrated or get irritated, you need to sit with yourself and introspect. What am I doing? How am I behaving? What is the impact of my behavior on others? So and identify and label the emotions that you're experiencing. Identification really helps you know what you are thinking or feeling. The moment I had a feeling, oh, I hate that person, the next thought will be, hating is not good. That's not a good way of looking at person. So immediately you will be able to rectify yourself or correct yourself. Then practicing self-regulation. Ask yourself how differently I could have dealt with it, how differently I could have communicated my disagreement or difference of opinion or my feelings to the other person. There are so many good ways to say what you want to say, but in the fit of anger, we normally say whatever comes to our mind. So when you sit with yourself and think, what are the different ways I could have dealt with it, your conscious mind will be available with a number of ways to deal with that situation. So next time when you will go in the same situation, you will feel like behaving the same way, but your rational mind will give you options. Oh, don't do this. You can say this later. You can say it in a different way. Not that in the next time itself your behavior will be changed or you will be better person, but definitely there will be a couple of times when you will still behave the old way, but your rational mind will keep giving you reminder about the other options available. And a turning point will come, a breakthrough will come when you will be in the middle of the situation and you will realize, oh, that's not the right way of reacting, or that's not the right way of behaving. And that will be the turning point where you will change your reaction into responding, and your behavior will automatically change. So practicing self-regulation one first in at alone, and then actually being in this situation. Then of course creating an open environment to express, where people can come up to you and tell you. For example, you are most of you are psychology student, so Johari window, I think all of us have studied thoroughly. So we have to create open environment where people can come up to us and give us feedback, especially feedback of friends, parents, siblings, our well-wishers. That has to be taken seriously, because they were our true well-wishers and they don't want us to go wrong. For example, if any one of you have anger issue and you are very impulsive in hitting back or maybe breaking things, then if they are giving you feedback that you need to work on your anger, then I think you need to take that feedback seriously. Or for example, if you're very shy and if you're not comfortable opening with people, but if your family and your friends come up to you and say that you must speak your mind, you must tell what is bothering you, because that is how people will get to know what you're going through. So that is something you again have to take seriously and work on yourself. So create open environment to allow people to express, and then also take their feedback seriously. And especially when the feedback comes from people whom you can rely, who are your well-wisher, that should be taken seriously and should be worked upon. And then of course, keep an eye on how your behavior impacts on others. So once you have shouted, at your sibling or even at your parents sometimes, just observe their face, look at their eyes, look at how they are feeling, look at their body language. I'm sure you will be able to see that they were unhappy. Maybe they were too scared to react to you, they were too sad to tell you anything, but they were definitely affected by the way you behaved with them. So you must observe them to understand how your actions are impacting their mental health or their sense of well-being. And then of course, if you value your relationship, if you value people, then you will definitely work more on your being more emotionally responsible and careful when you are handling people's emotion. Thank you. Best of luck. So if we have any question, I think we can. So I think I finished on time.
Thank you, ma'am, for this very insightful and wonderful presentation. You started right with the balloon analogy and talked what is inside us really leads us up. And of course, you did talk about self-awareness, self-regulation, social awareness, and relationship management. And a question that has been raised by a student: if you live in an environment where you are persistently bullied by your peers, how do you practice emotional intelligence?
I think emotional intelligence is very helpful, especially when you are under any kind of peer pressure and you are being bullied. One, you need to sit with yourself and ask, how am I feeling? How am I liking it? And in case if you are not liking it, nobody likes to be bullied. Nobody likes to be, pulled by people. So then sit with yourself and ask, what is the way to handle it? How can I resist? So assertion is one skill. I think that is of great help when you want to resist bullying. There, you need to learn how you put your thoughts and feelings into words in a legitimate manner. So when we assert, we look into the eyes of a person, we say what we want to say in a firm but a friendly tone. We are not aggressive in our, body language. Our tone of voice is not aggressive, and our selection of word is not insulting. For example, if somebody is bullying me, why take that example? Okay, if I'm traveling in a metro, and if I have somebody standing next to me and I can see he's literally touching my arm, so usually one way is I would just keep quiet and would just ignore it. So that is being passive. Second, I'm feeling very bad, I'm very unhappy with that person, but I'm not raising my voice thinking that why make tamasha, so I'll just keep quiet. That is being passive aggressive. I think these are two emotions these students go through when they are not able to handle bullying. Third could be when you're not able to contain the situation, you may become aggressive and you may start fighting. But usually when you start fighting, the situation worsens. It doesn't improve. The correct way of handling the same situation will be, I will turn toward that person and in a firm tone, I'll say, "Okay, sir, twice I have tried to move this way, but I can see your arm touching my arm. So can you please stand properly?" So when you use assertion, you use right words, you use right tone of voice, and your body language is not offensive, but it is confident and firm. This comes with little practice, but I think this is one skill every child should be empowered with, because that is the need of the hour, where we have to resist something that is not appropriate. Yes, sir.
Ma'am, there is one question from Jayant, and he is asking, why is there a stigma attached to different genders displaying the same emotional response? For example, when a girl cries, it is seen as a normal reaction, but when a boy has the same reaction, it is stigmatized. Why is it so?
I really empathize with this child, and I think we really need to address it, because there is gender discrimination on emotionality. Boys are at the, they are at a loss, because they are not allowed to express, nurture, or even talk about emotions. I think if we go into the history, probably men were more, symbol of masculinity, and female were considered more of emotional kind of a person. But I think with changing time, we really need to change the definition of masculinity. Masculinity does not mean deprived of emotions. They can be, they can express and feel and share their emotions. At least now as parents, and Jayant, once you become a parent, and now if you are, I mean, at your age, at least encourage yourself and your siblings and your friends to talk about emotions. The charity begins at home. Don't put the responsibility on anybody else. But yes, as parents, we really need to, nurture this. We really need to allow this to happen. Boys should be encouraged to, talk about emotions. That could be one of the reasons sometimes when we see them very insensitive in certain situations. Not all boys and not all men, but yes, when we get to hear some, cases of rape and then abuse, and some, foul ways of treating women or being insensitive to women, that's because probably those sensitivities they have not been, exposed to. So as parents and as teachers, we should encourage that part, and there is a gender discrimination on emotionality point of view. I fully agree with Jayant and empathize with him.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Ma'am, there is one question from our senior colleague, Dr. Manjulata Sharma. उनका पूछना है कि अपनों को खोने के भय से कैसे मुक्त हो, या any kind of negative feelings that we have, उससे हम कैसे बच सकते हैं?
मैम एक बारी प्रश्न दोबारा रिपीट करिएगा.
This is a question from our senior colleague, Dr. Manjulata Sharma. इनका पूछना है कि अपनों को खोने के भय से खुद को कैसे मुक्त करें?
I know, especially in the COVID time, when we are getting to hear news like this, I think that's very honest, and that anxiety is very genuine. I think one thing is, if you can assess the risk, how much of risk they are at. Suppose if they are elderly or they have comorbidities, I'm talking in context of COVID right now, but this can be taken to any situation. So we have to assess the risk. If they are elderly, if they have comorbidities, and if they are exposing themselves to a certain situation, then definitely they are at a greater risk. But in case if they are following all the guidelines, they are not taking any extra adventurous risk to put their life to any kind of risk, for example, going out or not following the guidelines, then I think we have to see how much of risk everybody is at. I think that way, all of us are at equal amount of risk. Life and death, it's in nobody's hands. Now I'm talking out, not in context of COVID, but in general. Life and death is not in somebody's hand. That's Almighty's, prerogative. So I cannot control that. So something that I cannot control of, if I focus on something like this, I'm just wasting my energy and time. So rather than worrying about their life, I will pray for their life. Rather than worrying about their death, I'll pray for their life, that may God give them long life, and also use all possible ways to protect them from, exposing themselves to any extraordinary risk. I hope that answers the question.
Ma'am, there's a question from Nikita Agrawal. She's an alumni of our college. She asked that, does emotional intelligence mean that we can't expect things from other individuals? And further she writes that if no, then why give our 100% to others? And if yes, then it hurts when expectations aren't fulfilled. How to handle that?
हम एक काम करते हैं, क्वेश्चन बहुत सुंदर है, तो इसको 3 पार्ट्स में लेते हैं. पहला वाला क्वेश्चन दोबारा, पहले फर्स्ट पार्ट आप रिपीट करिए, मैं आंसर दूंगी, और फिर सेकंड और थर्ड पार्ट.
Okay. First thing is, does emotional intelligence mean that we can't expect things from other individuals?
It is not about you can't expect. Your expectations from others will automatically go down. जैसे कहते हैं ना, जैसे बुद्धा के लिए कहा जाता है, कुछ लोग छोड़ देते हैं और कुछ से छूट जाता है, तो ये छूट जाता है. एक्सपेक्टेशन ऑटोमेटिकली आपकी खत्म हो जाती है. एक आप सेल्फ रिलायंट हो जाते हैं, सेल्फ डायरेक्टेड हो जाते हैं, सेल्फ कंट्रोल्ड हो जाते हैं, और आपको ये भी पता लग जाता है कि सामने वाले के हाथ में भी लिमिटेड पावर है, उससे ज्यादा एक्सपेक्ट करके कोई फायदा होने वाला नहीं है. तो ऑटोमेटिकली आपकी एक्सपेक्टेशन जो है वो कम हो जाती है, तो कांट वाला सवाल ही खत्म हो जाता है. हमारी एक्सपेक्टेशन तब दूसरों से होती है जो चीज मेरे पास नहीं होगी. अगर मेरे पास पानी है तो मुझे उम्मीद नहीं होगी कि मुझे आप पानी दें, लेकिन अगर मेरे पास पानी नहीं है तो मुझे उम्मीद होगी कि मुझे आप पानी दें. So you become self-reliant. That's my answer to the part 1 question. Now let's go to the part 2.
No, it was in connection with that. If it is a no, then why give our 100% to others?
मैंने नो भी नहीं कहा, यस भी नहीं कहा. मैंने तो ये कहा कि एक्सपेक्टेशंस अपने आप छूट जाती हैं, जरूरत ही नहीं रह जाती.
So that has covered the whole thing.
ठीक है, लेकिन फिर भी 100% देना है. फिर भी 100% इसलिए देना है because I value the relationship. I value the person. आप अपने बच्चे के लिए थके भी होते हैं तो खाना बनाते हैं. आधी रात को भी बच्चा अगर कहता है मम्मा भूख लगी है, तो आप उठ के किचन में जाके ढूंढते हो कि क्या है जो मैं अपने बच्चे को दे सकती हूँ. क्यों करते हैं? You feel like doing it because that is unconditional love. जब expectation नहीं रहती तो you start giving unconditional love. I think that answers part 2. तीसरा भी कोई क्वेश्चन है?
No, it was that only.
Okay. So it is because जब हम give and take करके कर रहे हैं तो ये business है. ये business है. Relationship में business नहीं है. It's a mutual understanding. Any other question?
And there is another question. And how do we identify societal tendency in an individual?
Oh yes, I think that's the very relevant question. Very relevant question. And I must tell you, I have had 2-3 deaths in my knowledge where the client was, coming for counseling, and the family was informed that there's a likelihood of, attempting suicide. Family did not take it seriously, and unfortunately they lost the family member. So it's very important to identify these suicidal tendencies. See, one, if the person has been for long under depression and has not been taken medicines properly, especially in the case where there is any kind of setback or some kind of threat or some kind of loss in the family, and if the person is known to have depression, then definitely you have to keep an eye on it. If the person is talking about death, hopelessness, or if the person is saying life is not worth living, worthlessness, so again that's an indication that the person is losing worth and hope for life. So that's an indication. If there's helplessness in the talk, again it's an indication that the person is feeling helpless and may think of death as the only way out of the situation. The family needs to be vigilant, needs to be available, be around the patient. Of course, medicines need to be given regularly, and also at the same time counseling and psychotherapy must go simultaneously. But the family has a very big role in dealing with this situation.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Indu. And we really, there are many more questions, but we'd like to extend our hearty thanks to you for having given time to the college and to all the viewers who regularly connect with us to gain various insights that can contribute towards their mental, emotional, and psychological well-being. Your presentation was so insightful, and you so beautifully brought takeaway points with us that we remember that many of them are going to be used by our participants, and they are really going to have transformative effect. And I'm sure they are going to enable us to face many challenges. You really enabled us to understand and approach this subject of emotional intelligence from a variety of vantage points, and also certain skills that we need to inculcate in order to be more intelligent. So heartiest thanks from our sides to you.
One last message that I want to add here. We are talking about suicide, but I think much before that, we have to be vigilant in identifying people who are going into depression. Anybody who is going into depression, they actually cry for help. And they take a lot of time, lot of opportunities they use to inform everybody that I'm not well. So it could be your students, it could be your colleague, it could be your family member, it could be anybody. I think it is our responsibility to identify that the person is not feeling well or is not looking well. If you can see the performance of the person going down, social interaction going down, personal hygiene not being looked after, food habits are disturbed, sleep pattern is disturbed, that's a clear indication that the person is going in depression. I would request through this session, please reach to them. They will not be able to come to you. They may not be even left with the energy to come and talk to you, but be available, talk to them, address their concern. As teachers, as parents, as friends, as member of the society, we need to mitigate it by proactively, handling it rather than later on doing some conferences and workshops about depression and suicide. I think that's a very sad thing that we do. So we proactively should, handle it. That's my message to the society.
Thank you, Dr. Indu, for this very valuable message. Besides the students of psychology, we have many students from various voluntary organizations who regularly attend such talks, who really take this commitment to constantly reach out to a person and help them in the moment of their need. And I'm sure that this message is well taken by all of us who are listening to you. In the same series, I also take this opportunity to thank the Department of Psychology, especially its head, Dr. Poonam Das, who has always strived to nurture a culture of excellence in the department. I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Manna Patankar, the convener of this program, Dr. Preeti, who has been helping in so many ways, Dr. Priyanka, who facilitated this conversation, Dr. Aisha Begum, and we also take this opportunity to extend our heartfelt thanks to all our friends and well-wishers, faculty members from different institutions and from the college who attend these conversations and constantly encourage us. I also wish to extend heartfelt thanks to students and to other viewers. And we believe that let us continue to attend this series on emotional well-being, not only for our own sake, but as Dr. Neja pointed out, that we need to be equipped and available to help others, those who are in need. So thank you. Thank you, Dr. Neja.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, ma'am, now we are the